There is a war going on in South Vietnam. I think last week there were over 500 killings, assassinations, bombings. The casualties are high. It's I said last week, a subterranean war, guerrilla war of increasing ferocity.
On August 2nd and 4th in 1964, a series of confrontations occurred between the United States Navy and the North Vietnamese Navy in the Gulf of Tonkin, off the coast of Vietnam. These incidents, known as the Gulf of Tonkin Incident, would go on to have profound and far-reaching consequences, serving as the pretext for the United States to dramatically escalate its military involvement in the Vietnam War. However, in the decades since, the details and legitimacy of the Gulf of Tonkin incident have been called into question by historians and researchers. Many now believe that the events of August 1964 were either greatly exaggerated or entirely fabricated by the U.S. government, making the Gulf of Tonkin incident a prime example of a false flag operation used to justify an unpopular war. The first part of the Gulf of Tonkin incident occurred on August 2, 1964, when the U.S. destroyer USS Maddox was conducting a signals intelligence patrol as part of a covert operation known as DeSoto. While in international waters, the Maddox was approached by 3 North Vietnamese Navy torpedo boats from the 135th Torpedo Squadron. According to the official U.S. account, the North Vietnamese boats attacked the Maddox with torpedoes and machine gun fire. In the ensuing engagement, 1 U.S. aircraft was damaged, 3 North Vietnamese boats were hit, and 4 North Vietnamese sailors were killed, with 6 more wounded. The Maddox, however, emerged unscathed except for a single bullet hole. This initial confrontation on August 2nd was a real event, and the U.S. government's claims about it were largely accurate. However, the events of 2 days later would prove to be much more controversial. On August 4th, 1964, the Maddox, now joined by the destroyer USS Turner Joy, continued the DeSoto patrol in the Gulf of Tonkin. That evening, the 2 U.S. ships reported coming under attack again from North Vietnamese forces. The official U.S. account claimed that the ships had come under a deliberate attack from North Vietnamese torpedo boats, triggering a retaliatory response from the American vessels. President Lyndon B. Johnson and other administration officials quickly seized on this incident to justify a major escalation of U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. On August 7, 1964, just 3 days after the alleged second attack, Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. This gave the president broad war powers to assist any Southeast Asian country against communism, effectively allowing the U.S. to enter the Vietnam War without a formal declaration of war. However, in the years and decades that followed, serious doubts emerged about the legitimacy of the August 4th incident. Investigations and declassified documents revealed that the evidence for the second attack was, at best, highly questionable. In 1995, retired Vietnamese Defense Minister Vuong Nguyen Giap admitted that the August 4th attack never happened, while confirming the events of August 2nd. Additionally, the commander of the U.S. task force, Captain John Herrick, reported doubts about the attack at the time, stating that the ships were being fired upon by our own ships in the reaction to flares and radar disturbances. Further evidence of deception emerged in 2001 when a taped conversation was released showing that even then, Defense Secretary Robert McNamara had expressed doubts to President Johnson about whether the August 4th attack had actually occurred. In 2005, retired National Security Agency, NSA, historian Robert Hanyok concluded that NSA officers had deliberately falsified communications intercepts to make it appear that the August 4th attack had taken place, when in fact there was no such attack. Hanyok stated that the officers acted not out of political motives, but to cover up earlier errors and protect the reputation of the intelligence community. The Gulf of Tonkin incident and the subsequent Gulf of Tonkin resolution proved to be a pivotal moment in the escalation of the Vietnam War. By providing the legal justification for the U.S. to dramatically increase its military involvement, the incident set in motion a series of events that would lead to the deaths of over 58,000 American soldiers and countless Vietnamese civilians. As Senator Frank Church, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, stated in a closed-door session in 1968, "In a democracy, you cannot expect the people whose sons are being killed and who will be killed to exercise their judgment if the truth is concealed from them." The revelation that the U.S. government had either greatly exaggerated or outright fabricated the events of August 4, 1964, was a devastating blow to the credibility of the Johnson administration and the military. It fueled growing public skepticism and opposition to the war, contributing to the erosion of trust in the government and its institutions. The Gulf of Tonkin Incident serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of deception and the misuse of power by government officials. It demonstrates how a single, seemingly isolated event can be manipulated and exploited to justify a costly and unpopular war, with devastating consequences for both the nation and the world. The parallels between the Gulf of Tonkin incident and the more recent controversy over the false claims of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq are striking. In both cases, the American people were misled by their government, with tragic results. As we reflect on the legacy of the Gulf of Tonkin incident, it is crucial that we remain vigilant and demand transparency and accountability from our leaders. The American people must be able to trust that the information they receive from their government is accurate and truthful, especially when it comes to matters of war and peace. Only by learning from the mistakes of the past can we ensure that such deceptions are not repeated and that the sacrifices of those who have served in our nation's wars are not in vain. The Gulf of Tonkin incident stands as a sobering reminder of the high price that can be paid when the truth is obscured and the public's trust is betrayed.